The city always looked beautiful in December. But to Ethan Hale, beauty had long since lost its meaning. Outside his glass office tower, snow drifted gently through the morning air, catching the glow of traffic lights like falling stars. Inside, the office smelled of pine-scented candles and ambition. His secretary's attempt to make things festive. Ethan didn't even notice. He was, after all, the man who sold Christmas. Literally. His company, Bright Star Retail Holdings, owned half the city's department stores and the biggest online marketplace for holiday goods. Toys, lights, fake trees, Santa suits. If you bought Christmas, odds were Ethan had sold it to you. And yet for him, Christmas had died 3 years ago, the night his wife, Clara, did. He stood at the window staring at the skyline. Down below, shoppers moved like colored beads. Scarves, laughter, bright paper bags, he whispered under his breath. All that joy, bought on a discount. A knock came at his door. "Mr. Hale, the charity committee's here to see you," he sighed. "Tell them to wait." He wasn't in the mood for smiles and warm wishes. Every year his PR team begged him to appear in some donation drive, some photo op handing toys to children. He always declined, or wrote a check big enough to quiet the criticism. He didn't believe in charity anymore. People, he thought, took what they wanted and left you hollow. At lunch, he walked through the Christmas market near the park, more out of routine than curiosity. Lights twinkled from every stall. A carol choir sang under a gazebo. The smell of roasted chestnuts floated in the air. He moved like a ghost among the living, coat collar up, his face hidden behind a scarf. Then he heard a small voice behind him. "Excuse me, mister. You dropped this." He turned. A little boy, maybe 7 or 8, held out a black glove. Ethan looked at his bare hand. Yes, it was his. "Thank you," he muttered. The boy smiled, eyes bright as ornaments. "You should keep your hands warm. My mom says cold hands make a cold heart." Ethan blinked, half offended, half amused. "Your mom sounds very wise." The boy grinned. "She is. She makes the best hot chocolate in the world. Want some?" Ethan glanced around. The boy pointed toward a small stall nearby. A modest wooden cart with a handwritten sign, "Lila's Cocoa and Cookies." Behind it stood a young woman, the boy's mother, clearly. Her hair was tucked into a wool hat, and her cheeks were pink from the cold. She was serving cocoa to customers with a smile that somehow looked real. "Liam, honey, don't bother the man," she called. "He wasn't bothered, Mom. He just looked cold." Ethan almost smiled. Almost. "He's right," he said. "Maybe a hot chocolate would help." The woman handed him a cup. "Here you go. On the house. My son's good deed of the day." "That's not necessary," he said, reaching for his wallet. "It's Christmas. Some things are better when they're not for sale." Her tone was gentle, not sarcastic, and yet the words stung him. He tasted the cocoa. It was thick, rich, real. Not the powdered kind. It reminded him of something Clara used to make on Christmas mornings. That memory hit him like a whisper from another life. "You run this stall alone?" he asked. "Mostly. I bake at night, sell during the day. It's a little tough, but it keeps us going." He looked at her name tag. Lila. "You should raise your prices," he muttered. "And lose the smile of people who can barely afford a cup," she said softly. "No, thank you. I like seeing them happy." Ethan didn't know how to respond. He simply nodded, left a large bill on the counter and walked away. Behind him, Lila frowned. She didn't want his money, but Liam whispered, "Mom." Maybe he needed to do that. That night, Ethan returned to his penthouse cold marble floors, silent rooms, a single light left on. He poured himself a drink and stared at the framed photo on the mantel. Clara, wearing a Santa hat, holding a mug of cocoa identical to the one he'd had today. He closed his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he felt something stir. Guilt? Longing? He wasn't sure. Outside, snow fell softly. The city glowed below. But inside his heart, the light still hadn't reached. The next morning, Ethan found himself driving back to the market. He told himself it was for research, maybe to buy up the land for future expansion. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. Lila's stall was there again, this time with fewer customers. Liam waved excitedly. "Hey, glove guy!" Ethan chuckled despite himself. "You remember me." "Mom says I remember good people." "Does your mom say that about everyone?" "Only the ones who come back." That line lingered. He ordered another cocoa. Lila looked surprised but smiled. "Back for more?" "Let's say I'm reconsidering my opinion on Christmas beverages." "Good," she said, "because you look like someone who needs a little sweetness." He raised an eyebrow. "Is that your sales pitch?" "No," she said. "That's just a fact." They talked for a while. She told him about Liam, about working nights as a cleaner, about her dream to open a small cafe someday. Ethan listened. Really listened, for the first time in years. When he left, she gave him a cookie wrapped in paper. "For later," she said. "You look like someone who forgets to eat." That night, he didn't throw it away. He ate it slowly, sitting by the window. It was the best cookie he'd had in years. Days passed. Ethan found reasons or excuses to visit the market. Each time, Lila and Liam greeted him warmly. He started bringing small things, an extra blanket for the stall, new thermos cups. She resisted at first, but his quiet insistence won her over. One evening when the snow turned heavier, Lila was packing up late. Ethan appeared holding an umbrella. "You'll freeze out here," he said. "I've had worse," she replied, laughing. "Let me drive you home." "I can't accept that." "You let me drink free cocoa. Consider it repayment." She hesitated, then nodded. In his car, silence filled the space, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Liam dozed in the back seat, clutching his toy reindeer. "So," Lila said, "what do you do, Mr. Hale?" "I run a company." "Big one, I'm guessing." "Something like that." "Must be nice, lots of people, big offices, all that success." He glanced at her. "It doesn't feel like success when you have no one to share it with." Lila's expression softened. "Then maybe it's time you start." He didn't reply. The traffic light turned green. When he dropped them off at their small apartment building, she thanked him. "You're welcome," he said quietly. She smiled. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Hale." "It's not Christmas yet." "It's close enough to start believing again." She waved, disappearing into the stairwell for the first time in years. He didn't dread the holiday ahead. That night, he stood by his window once more. But the city lights seemed different, warmer, alive. He whispered, almost involuntarily, "Merry Christmas, Clara." And for a fleeting moment, he thought he felt her presence, gentle, forgiving, as if she was proud that he was finally opening his heart again. The city had changed in the last week. Or maybe, Ethan thought, it was him who had changed. Snow now looked softer, not cold. Music from shop fronts no longer annoyed him. And somehow, even the sight of laughing children didn't ache the way it used to. Every morning his driver would ask, "Straight to the office, sir." And every morning Ethan would hesitate before saying, "Take the longer route, through the market." It wasn't business anymore. It was something else. He liked to see Lila's stall standing bravely in the cold, light strings blinking like small miracles. He liked how Liam would wave both hands as if greeting an old friend. He liked how Lila would smile without pretense, as if she saw the person he once was, not the man he had become. One morning, though, something was off. The stall was closed. The little chalkboard that said Lila's cocoa and cookies was gone. A strange worry rose in him. He told himself it didn't matter. People miss a day. Maybe she was sick. But he found himself turning the car around, scanning the street again. By the second day, Still no stall. By the third, he couldn't sit still. He finally stopped near the corner cafe where she often bought supplies. The barista recognized her name immediately. Lila? Oh yeah, she's at St. Mary's Hospital. Her kid's been sick. The words struck him like a cold wind. That evening, Ethan stood awkwardly in the hospital hallway, a bouquet of white lilies in his hand, unsure why he had come, unsure if he even belonged here. He found her sitting by Liam's bed. The boy was pale but smiling faintly, clutching a stuffed reindeer. Lila looked up in surprise. Mr. Hale? I heard about Liam. I just wanted to check if you were both okay. Her eyes softened. That's kind of you. He caught pneumonia. The doctors say he'll be fine, but it'll take time. Ethan hesitated. Can I help with anything? You already have. You came. He stood there, unsure what to say. Then, almost shyly, he handed her the flowers. These are for you. And him, she smiled, eyes glistening. They're beautiful. Thank you. That night he stayed longer than planned. Liam insisted on showing him his drawing. A picture of their cocoa stall under falling snow. That's you, Liam said, pointing to a tall stick figure with a black coat. I look quite heroic. Ethan chuckled. You are. You brought Mom an umbrella when it snowed. Lila laughed softly. He remembers everything, Ethan smiled. Good memory's a gift. Hold on to it, kid. He didn't realize how true those words were. Until later. After that night, Ethan found himself visiting often. He brought storybooks, toys, and sometimes lunch for Lila. They'd talk about everything. Her baking, his company, their lives before loss. One evening, Lila asked, What was your wife like? Ethan hesitated. She loved Christmas. She made everything feel alive, even the small things. Our house used to smell like cinnamon and laughter. You miss her, Lila said softly. Every day. I thought if I built something big enough, made enough money, maybe the noise would drown out the silence she left. And did it? He shook his head. It just made it louder. Lila reached across the table, touching his hand briefly. Sometimes, silence just wants to be heard. The simplicity of her words broke something open in him, something that had been locked for years. December drifted forward like a hymn. Liam recovered, and soon they were back at the market. This time, Ethan came not as a visitor, but as a helper. He helped string lights, fix the stall, even handed out cups awkwardly to amused customers. You're a natural salesman, Lila teased. I've had some experience, he replied, smiling. No one recognized him here. No one saw Ethan Hale, CEO. They saw a man pouring cocoa for strangers. And for once, he liked that version of himself. On Christmas week, Lila told him her rent had doubled. The landlord planned to sell the building. Ethan's first instinct was to solve it with money. But he stopped himself. Let me help, he said quietly. You already do. We'll figure it out, she answered, firm but kind. He admired her pride, her strength. It reminded him of Clara, the way she had built warmth out of very little. That night, he couldn't sleep. He walked through his penthouse, looking at all the expensive emptiness. Then, his gaze fell on Clara's old journal, one she used to fill with Christmas recipes, wishes, and quotes. He opened it to a page he'd never read before. In her handwriting, it said, The meaning of Christmas isn't in what we sell. It's in what we give that money can't buy. He sat there for hours, the city silent around him. The next day, he made a decision. He called his assistant, told her to arrange an emergency meeting with the board. When they gathered, men in suits, women with tablets, he stood before them and said, Starting this year, Bright Star will donate half its Christmas profits to community programs. Homeless shelters, hospitals, food drives. We'll also fund small vendors, like the ones who actually make Christmas real for people. The boardroom fell silent. One executive coughed. Sir, that's highly unorthodox. So was Christmas, he replied. Let's bring it back. News of his decision spread fast. The media called it a miracle of generosity. But Ethan didn't do it for headlines. He did it for something far simpler, to make good on Clara's words, and to give meaning to what he had lost. On Christmas Eve, he went back to the market. Snow was falling again, soft and pure. The lights flickered like hope itself. Lila's stall was surrounded by people. Her cocoa had become famous after a local blogger wrote about her story. She turned, surprised to see him. You did this, didn't you? I might have made a few phone calls. Ethan, I don't know what to say. Say you'll save me a cup, she laughed. Always. He took the cup from her, steam rising between their hands. Merry Christmas, Lila. Merry Christmas, Ethan. For the first time since Clara's passing, he said those words and meant them. Later that night, as he walked home through the snow, something in the corner of the park caught his eye. A charity tree, covered with children's wishes written on paper stars. He stopped and read one. I wish my mom could have a bakery someday. The signature said, Liam. Ethan smiled. He took out his phone and made another quiet call. To his property manager. Find a small shop on Maple Street, he said. Lease it under her name, tomorrow. When he hung up, he looked up at the stars. And for the first time, he felt like someone up there might be listening. As the night deepened, he returned home to find something unexpected on his doorstep. A small package wrapped in brown paper, tied with red ribbon. There was no name on it, just a note. For the man who sold Christmas, and finally found it again. Inside was a mug hand-painted slightly crooked, with the words, Believe Again, written across it. He recognized Lila's handwriting. Ethan sat down by his window, mug in his hands, snow falling outside, the city glowing below, and for the first time in years, he felt at peace. The morning of Christmas Eve arrived draped in white silence. The city was still asleep, its rooftops powdered with snow, its streets waiting for laughter and light. In his penthouse, Ethan Hale awoke not to the sound of alarms, but to something unfamiliar. Peace. For once, the emptiness of his apartment didn't echo. On his kitchen counter sat the hand-painted mug from Lila. Believe again. He smiled faintly, poured himself cocoa instead of coffee, and stared out the window as dawn turned the sky pink. There was something different in the air that day. Something like promise. By mid-morning, Ethan was out walking through the city again. His scarf flapped in the wind as he crossed the park, passing snowmen, carolers, and children chasing snowflakes. He was no longer invisible to the world, or to himself. Down the street he saw Lila's stall, busier than ever. Laughter and steam filled the air. When she noticed him, her face lit up. You're early. Habit of successful businessmen, he teased. I thought you'd be busy saving the world today. She smiled. Not the world, he said softly. Just one corner of it. Liam came running out, bundled in a red scarf. Mr. Hale, I made you something. He handed Ethan a small paper ornament shaped like a star. In crayon it said, Thank you for helping my mom smile again. Ethan felt his throat tighten. That's the best gift I've ever received. They spent the morning together, Lila serving cocoa, Liam handing out cookies, Ethan helping carry boxes. The market buzzed with warmth. The air smelled of cinnamon and hope. Everywhere he looked, people were smiling, not because of what they bought, but because of what they shared. And in that moment, Ethan realized this was Christmas. Not the kind he sold, the kind he'd forgotten to believe in. Around noon, Lila said, Come with us tonight. Tonight? The community center on Maple Street. They're holding a Christmas dinner for families who can't afford one. I volunteer every year. I haven't exactly been good company at dinners. Then tonight's your redemption arc, she said, grinning. He laughed. You really believe in those? I believe in people, she said, especially the ones who stop pretending not to care. He couldn't refuse. That evening, Maple Street glowed under fairy lights. Inside the old community center, tables were set with mismatched plates and paper candles. Children ran about, elders hummed carols, and laughter bounced off the walls like bells. Ethan helped serve food, awkward at first, pouring gravy, handing plates, sharing smiles. But soon, something inside him loosened. He caught glimpses of Clara everywhere, in the joy, in the togetherness, in the way people held each other close. For the first time, he wasn't haunted by her absence. He was guided by her memory. After dinner, the hall quieted as an old piano began playing Silent Night. Lila stood beside him, eyes bright with tears. Liam leaned against his leg, half asleep. Beautiful, isn't it? She whispered. Yes, he said. It is. Outside, snow fell heavier now, catching in her hair, glimmering in the glow of string lights through the window. Ethan felt something unspoken pass between them. Not romance exactly, but connection. A shared warmth deeper than words. You gave a lot this season, she said. Not enough, he replied quietly. Not yet. Later, as the families began to leave, Lila went to clean up. Ethan slipped out quietly, walking toward Maple Street, the small row of shops covered in snow. He stopped in front of one, a cozy storefront with frosted windows, a gold-lettered sign that read, Lila's Hearth Cafe. Inside, lights were already glowing. The smell of cocoa and cookies drifted into the street. Lila's name was on the door. He'd done it quietly, without telling her, purchased the space, renovated it, and handed the lease to her name as a Christmas gift. But tonight, she would find out. When she emerged from the community center with Liam, Ethan gestured toward the cafe. I believe this belongs to you. She blinked. What is this? Your dream. You told me once you wanted a cafe. Consider it a Christmas present. From one believer to another. Ears welled in her eyes. Ethan, I can't. Yes, you can. It's yours. No strings, no debts. Just a new beginning. She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Liam clapped his hands, jumping up and down. Mom, you have your own cafe. Ethan smiled. Looks like Santa came through. Lila hugged him, not politely, but with the kind of gratitude that says more than words ever could. He froze, then slowly, gently returned it. You didn't just change my Christmas, she whispered. You changed my life. Funny, he said softly. You did the same for me. As midnight neared, the city bells rang in Christmas Day. Ethan stood outside the cafe, looking up at the falling snow, his breath turning to mist. He whispered, Merry Christmas. Clara, I think you'd like her. And for a brief, sacred moment, he felt warmth on his cheek, like a kiss from the wind. Lila called out, Come inside. You'll freeze out here. He turned toward her smile, the glow of the cafe behind her, the promise of laughter within, and as he stepped inside, the doorbell chimed. A sound so simple yet so profound. The man who once sold Christmas had finally found it again.